All right, so on this channel, I post a lot of my podcasts from the Trauma Therapist podcast, in which I interview people in the mental health field, focusing on trauma specifically and all aspects of trauma. And what my focus is, and has been for the longest time, is to extract the heart and soul of my guests, and not just to really find out how they work and what they do and what their modality is. Yes, of course that's important, but really for me, it's how the hell did they get to this point in their life where they've decided to dedicate, where they need to dedicate their life to helping those who've been impacted by trauma. That is the question that drives me, and it's driven me for a long time, and I don't think I was aware of it. I'm really curious, as I get into this, I'm curious about your experience too, and why you're even here listening to this, why hopefully you're subscribed to this channel, but what drives you in this field, in this work, in your interest. You can share that in the comments. But when I first applied to graduate school, my goal was to focus on trauma. I knew that I wanted to work and help people in dire situations. I felt that I could. I didn't know how to do that, but I just was drawn to that. And I really didn't know why I was drawn to that. I got into graduate school and just was consumed with, absorbing and ingesting information, books about trauma, workshops, courses, conferences. What do I need to ingest that is going to help make me what I would consider to be, the best trauma therapist I could become? And it wasn't until later that I realized all that information is crucial. Obviously, it's crucial. You've got to know what you're doing. But who you are, there's that saying, it's not what you know, it's who you are. And I entered into the field focusing on the reverse of that. But I found out, I was going to say I soon found out. I wasn't soon. It took me a while to find out that it's who you are. For me, this is it, right? And you might have a different focus and be looking at this through a different lens. But for me, it's who I am. And in order to find out, in order to be, in order to interact and engage with others completely authentically, that requires you look at your stuff, you look at your traumas, you look at the hills and valleys of your lives. And I think for a lot of people who get into this field, to get into the mental health field, in a way it's easy for them, right? They're drawn to helping, they're helpers. But when you ask them, not everyone, but a lot of us, when you ask them, well, you got to look at your own stuff. So, what do you mean I've got to look at my own stuff? Yes, you do. And that's crucial. And it's not easy at all to do that. It took me a while, as I was doing my own podcast, to begin to be comfortable enough to talk about and to share my own trauma. The fact that I was bullied and how that really negatively impacted the trajectory of my life. But working as I did after graduate school, getting into a clinic in Northern California where I was assessing and treating young kids, part of a team, incredible team, that was assessing and treating young kids who were showing early signs of psychosis. There was a point after maybe a year or so, which seems like a long time to me now, when I was able to put down the assessment, the 40-page assessment that we were required to give these young kids, where I put that down and just kind of cut the cords of the formalities of that interview process, and was just able to engage with this kid on a very one-to-one level, without, again, the formality of this assessment and the proper ways that we should interact. And I just talked to this kid because I knew I had it in me, but I was frustrated because it wasn't coming out. I wasn't allowing it to come out, but it did in that moment. And I said, put this down. What is it that those people in the waiting room, their parents were in the waiting room, what is it that they're not getting, that the other therapists that you've seen aren't hearing, aren't getting, the doctors you've seen, what is it that they're not getting, understanding, that they need to get? And of course, that language wasn't in the assessment, but it enabled me and helped me connect with this kid, and it opened up that assessment in that moment, and things unfolded. And that way of interacting, not only that way of interacting, but that ability in that moment for me to allow myself to just engage, right, as myself, allowed me to see the importance of connecting on a human level. That's what we need, right? We don't want to go into an office and have someone just, read to us all the stuff they're going to do and blah, 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 blah. I want a human being. I want to be seen, right? I think we all need to be seen. And a lot of times, that's what hasn't happened in all of our experience when we're talking about mental health, and especially when we're talking about trauma. So I just want to talk about that today and put that out there. And I'm curious about your experiences, your thoughts on this. Whether you're a therapist or not, you're watching this, if you've gotten to this point for some reason, you're interested in this, let me know. Let me know why you're here listening to this now. And all right, have an awesome day.